Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to talk to you about certain specifics of the PhD journey. One very important aspect of PhD life most often is academic publishing. I don't know if I have spoken about this previously in my channel, but academic publishing for the sake of publishing or publishing a journal article for the sake of publishing it is not really a metric of a good PhD degree. However, having an article published from your work is an official record. This is what I tell to many of my friends, juniors, and generally anyone who I talk to about PhD life. The fact is that having a journal article published in a reasonably good journal, I'm not telling top journal or very reputed journal, but a reasonably good journal, gives a lot of credibility to the efforts that you have put in for the PhD work, because there is a permanent record of your work. It's out there. Anybody at any point in human history can go back and check details about your work, and there is a proof that you have done this work, because otherwise it just goes into your PhD thesis, and many universities don't even have a digital record of the thesis. If at all, some of them have, they are not publicly accessible. They need to be requested. So having an article published in a journal has two important advantages or merits, if I can say. One is that there is a proof or a public record of you having done that research work. And second, and most important, and the elephant in the room, is that your work gets peer reviewed by the field, by an international community from your own field. Let's say I worked in biomedical instrumentation or bioengineering in this oncology space. So my articles were peer reviewed by either engineers working in the field of biosensors or biologists working in the field of bioengineering specific to cancer research. So you also get kind of like a validation that your work is reasonably good enough and sound, and you are not re-engineering something that has already been found out. Because we should not forget that PhD work or doctoral work is 90% about understanding the way of science, understanding research, and 10% about pushing the boundaries of the available knowledge. So a PhD is supposed to give you the tools and the mental temperament to be able to do scientific research as a vocation or your job, you can say. It's mostly called vocation. So as a day-to-day life, will you be able to, or are you mentally prepared to do scientific research, to identify what is the boundary of science and to push the boundary of science? So that is the overall idea. So 90% of the objective of a PhD degree is not really to push the boundary of science. It is to be it is to enable you to be able to do that. So it's a training program, most likely. More often it's a training program, and 10% of it is that in this whole training process, what is the scientific question that you asked, what are the tools that you used, what were the observations that you made, were those observations sound enough, did they have sufficient controls and quality checks, and were they repeatable? These are the main questions that are asked in a scientific work. And having that work scientifically cross-checked, you can say, or peer-reviewed by a community is like an icing on the cake of your PhD research, and it's always good to have the articles published. However, the big point is here is that you should not publish an article for the sake of publishing, just to tick some checkbox in certain universities where they say that you need to have 3 articles published. I recently came across a friend who mentioned that some university wanted a student to publish 2 articles in a year, which is humanly not really possible to publish 2 articles in a year, at least in the biology space or a bioengineering space. Maybe in core engineering, core electronics engineering, it might still be possible. So don't go behind publishing, but consider it as a byproduct of your good quality research. That is the whole idea or the philosophy of scientific publishing. But today what I wanted to talk to is about certain technicalities about scientific publishing. So whoever has remotely heard about publishing journal articles would have come across several terms called impact factor, journal citation rank, JCR report, SJR, SJR score. Then you would have heard about the Google Scholar profiles, H index, I10 index. So many things are there. So I just wanted to tell you about these things. So at the present scenario, in the world of scientific research and scientific publishing, the most common metric that is used to assess the quality of a journal are two things. One is the journal's impact factor, and the other is to which quartile does a journal belong to. Does it belong to Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4? So I'll talk about the second thing first, which is more useful for you to identify a journal which you want to publish to. Simply put, any journal, if you take, would publish articles in different topics. Let's say if you take IEEE Sensors for that matter, which is a journal, they publish in the field of electrical and electronics engineering, they publish in the field of electronics instrumentation, they publish also in the field of nanotechnology. So there are global metrics that are done, basically the impact factor list, journal citation report, Web of Metrics, and Web of Science. So all these global bodies, kind of what they do is they assess the different journals that are available in a specific topic. Let's say if you take the topic of nanotechnology, you have Nature Nanotechnology, which is a very good journal, and there is Microsystem Technologies, and there is Microsystems and Nano Engineering. There are different journals which publish in this specific topic of nanotechnology. Then what they do is they'll group all these journals and group these journals into different quarters, basically telling the top 25% journals fall under Q1, then the 25 to 50% journals fall under Q2, Q3, Q4. So it's always good that you publish in the top 25% journals, which is Q1. Now, how do you identify the top 25% journal? So here is where things get a bit debatable, because people start going behind numbers, but that's how it is, at least at present. So I wanted to tell you about it. So how these quartiles are ranked is mostly based on the citations per article that a journal receives. So what is that? So let's say a journal publishes 100 articles in a year, and for the sum total of these 100 articles, they receive a citation of, let's say, 8,000. So then the citations per article is basically 8,000 by 100 or 80. This value, if you then average it over a 5-year period, let's say from this point on, 2023 till 2018, 5-year period, what is the average value that you get? That is called the 5-year impact factor. So that is the impact that you are getting, or basically it's a what is the word for it? It's a proxy for the impact score of the journal. What is the citations per article? Now, obviously from mathematics point of view, what is this fraction? This is basically citations per total number of citations by total number of articles published in a journal. So different journals employ different metrics. Some journals adhere to publishing a lot of articles and then hope that a lot of citations happen on these articles, so that you have this fraction going up. However, journals like, especially in the journals in nature, science, etc., they are very selective of the articles that they publish. So they may not publish, let's say, 100 articles in a year. They might publish only like 20 articles per year. But each of these 20 articles might get cited a lot. Well, let's just wait for the flight to pass. Sorry for the interruption. I am quite close to the Brussels airport. There are a lot of flights flying in and out, so it's very likely that I get interrupted quite often. So what I was telling is, let's say journals like Nature, they're very selective about the number of articles or that they want to publish in a year. So instead of 100, like I said earlier, they might publish only 20 articles. However, for these 20 articles, they might get like same 8,000 citations. So obviously the impact score becomes 8,000 by 20 or 400. These are all hypothetical figures. So these are two strategies that journals take. Either they become very selective about the number of articles that they want to put in a journal, or they are more welcoming of new articles, and they hope that at least 70-80% of them gather enough citations to improve their impact score. So based on this impact score, annual number of citations, and several other metrics, journals under specific categories get classified into quartiles: Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Now, some journals like Nature, Science are very broad-based journals. So they are what is called scientific reports. They are what is called multidisciplinary journals, in the sense that they kind of publish on top of a very wide variety of topics. They publish in chemistry, physics, electronics, climate change, geography, a lot of things. So these are multidisciplinary journals. So they are not really a specialized journal, if you can say, as opposed to a journal like Microsystems Technologies, which is focused on MEMS design, MEMS devices, etc. Or let's say IEEE transactions on biomedical circuits and systems. They are very focused on what are the new advancements in biomedical circuits that is coming out. What are the new advancements in systems engineering with respect to biomedical engineering that is coming out. So it is not really fair to compare such specialized journals with such generalized journals. But then sadly what people immediately see is, let's say somebody says they have published, immediately the question that is asked is, what is impact factor? So impact factor is very subjective because it depends on the field that you are publishing in. Let's say if you take especially computer science, AI, machine learning, the hot topics nowadays, if you see in that field, more than journals, it is the conferences that are prestigious. There are not many journals that are publishing in the field, but there are a lot of top conferences which people actually target. However, so their yardstick is that which conferences did you attend, because it's a very very fast moving field, and things change like over a week. This week and next week things might change rapidly. So they don't have the time to let the work that they have done be reviewed by multiple reviewers, get published, etc., which takes easily up to 3 to 4 months at the good case. Sometimes it can take 8-9 months. So because it's a fast moving field, it makes more sense to get them published in conferences where people can come together, talk about the advancements, and then keep working and pushing the limits. As opposed to this, a field like conventional biological research, chemistry, physical sciences, which involves elaborate experimental design, setting up of correct experiments, controls, making sure that the observation that you got is the effect of the target that you induced and not because of some other factors. It's a very elaborate process. So biological research needs to be fundamentally, the way it is conducted needs to be peer reviewed. So because of that, it's more relevant to publish a bioengineering. I am from biomedical, bioengineering, electronics background, so I don't want to speak about other fields where I don't have much knowledge. That's why I'm limiting myself to this topic. So bioengineering, biology fields, it is more prestigious or more relevant to have your work published in peer-reviewed journals. So that is the idea of impact factor. But then not really looking at impact score. Okay, should I go in for a 15 impact factor journal or a 12 impact factor journal? May not be a good metric, because that impact factor is calculated based on a lot of things. Maybe let's say you say that this journal publishes 50 articles in a year, but one or less like 5 articles became so famous that they got 80% of the citations in that year. Let's say 3,000 out of 4,000 out of the 8,000. I mean 50%, 4,000 about, let's say, out of 5,000 citations were from 10 articles, and the remaining 1,000 was contributed by the 40 articles. Still the impact factor will remain the same. So that it's not really a measure of the quality of the journal. So it's better that you select a Q1 journal, if say, to confirm that it's not a predatory journal or like a fake journal, and it's a good quality journal, reasonably good quality. So it's good that you go ahead with Q1 journal. So that is Q1 and impact factor. So the main takeaway from my whole lot of talk is that impact factor is a good thing to look at, but it's a very deceptive metric, and don't go behind impact factors. But it's always good to publish in Q1 journals and with a reasonably good impact factor. Now that is one metric. This is specific to journals. Then there is something called journal citation rank, which is also similar to this, and there is something called SJR score, which is a weighted score based on metrics and other factors like number of cited and uncited documents in the journal. There are a lot of metrics that are taken into account to get this score. So what I'm trying to say is that there are a lot of scores that are out there, impact factor. Then there is a journal H index, which is like total number of citations by total number of articles which got more than 10 citations for a journal. There are a lot of confusing metrics for each journal, but you just select 1 or 2 metrics, and the safest one is to see the quartile rank of a journal. because it's a more healthier or a more broad-based metric. And then you can even look at impact factor, just have an idea of at least if it's good enough before you submit your work to this journal. So this is about journal publishing. So I have another flight going above. So this is about journal publishing. Now, whoever is in the scientific field, even me, if they are taking it up as a career, they usually have a Google Scholar profile. So when you see the Google Scholar profile, you will see some metrics called H index, I-10 index, total citations, etc. I just want to brief about those as well. Total citations is simple. What is the cumulative number of citations that your published research articles have got since the time you started publishing, basically. So it's basically a sum total of all the citations. Now, what is H index and I-10 index, basically? So these are two things. So H index is a very tricky figure to understand. It's a good metric. Again, the background disclaimer is always there. There is only so much that all these numbers can mean about the quality of your work. It's very discipline sensitive, and it makes scientific research kind of like a race, which is at some level it should not be. It's always like a fine balance that you should maintain between doing good science and focusing on publishing. There should be a good fine balance. This disclaimer is always there. So what is H index? So H index is the how do I say, the value n. I can only tell it like an equation, and then I will explain it with an example. The value n for which n articles that you have published have n number of citations. The highest value of n for which n articles that you have published have n number of citations. So if let's say I have let's say 10 articles published, and my top article has like 130, 120 citations. My second article has like 80 citations. Third one has like 15 citations. Fourth one has like 10 citations. Fifth one has, let's say, 5 citations. Sixth one has 3 citations. If you see these numbers, so if I have 5 articles, greater than the same n value, 5 articles greater than 5 citations, my H index becomes 5. But if I have 6 articles and the 6th article has citation 5, my H index will still be 5, because I don't have 6 articles with more than 6 citations. If I have 6 articles with more than 6 citations, my H index will become 6. So what this means is that it kind of helps to identify how active you are in your research field. Let's say you have one article which became very famous, and you have 3000 citations on that article, but then you stopped doing science and you did not publish anything else after that. So you have only one article with 3000 citations, and that's it. Your H index will still be 1, because you have only one article greater than 1 citations. That's it. However, on contrary, you are somebody who is very active in the scientific field. You have published like 300 articles in your career, 300 papers, and let's say you have at least 40 articles with more than 40 citations. That means your H index is 40, which is a good measure. So that is H index. So H index, simply put, the value n for which there are n articles greater than n citations. So why H index exists is because it helps you measure how frequent or how active you are in scientific publishing, and that your total citation is not skewed because of one hit paper that you got, if you can say. It's not hit paper, it's a one famous paper that you got. Then what is I-10 index? I-10 index is not that useful a metric, but it's still good to have. I-10 index is simple. It's the number of articles that you have with greater than 10 citations. Let's say I have published 20 articles, I have not, and I have 4 articles greater than 10 citations, so my I-10 index will be 4. So that's the whole idea. H index, I-10 index, and total citations. These assess the researcher, and impact factor, quartile rank, etc. assess the journal. With these metrics, you should be able to traverse the field of scientific publishing but with always having this pinch of salt in your mind that this is not entirely it. There are a lot of people who are dedicated their lives to science and may not have communicated many of these findings, and it's always best to do good science than to focus on just publishing. However, given that, let's say for me, I left my jobs, a good job in both private and public sector, and then I started my PhD late in my career. So this is my life, this is my professional sphere of endeavor, and I need to be professional about my professional life, right? So scientific research is my professional career. So given that that's my professional life, my top priority, my breadwinner, I should do science in the most professional way possible, where my work is constantly assessed by the scientific community. I am constantly updated about what is happening in my field as well as in the broader field, so that I get new ideas about how I can advance this boundary of science. For all these aspects, getting your work frequently reviewed by the international community is paramount. And as per the current system that exists in the world, the way to do this is either through conferences or publishing in journals. Conferences are good for certain fields, journals are good for certain fields. So whichever field you are choosing, you need to look at that and understand this. So the idea is that you need to be constantly aware of what is the changing trends in your field, and given you are professional, right, this is your full-time thing. When this is your full-time thing, you should be good at it. That's the whole point. And but always have that conscience within you that you are doing right science, good science, and you do not compromise quality for quantity. If these rules are embedded in your conscience, then going ahead for scientific publishing is a good thing, so that you keep yourself updated. I think this has become a very long video, but these are things I wanted to tell. Happy publishing and good research. Bye bye.